And we have some very good foundation. We have, as an example, the tax bill that we passed. We gave you the biggest cut in taxes in the history of the country, bigger than the Reagan cuts. And all of that stuff, it's going to be very hard for them to give it up. I can't imagine politically that it would be possible. It would be a disaster for the country if that could lead to a depression, frankly, if they gave that up. But we have a great foundation to build on, and we're going to have things. So we're going to have a lot of companies coming in very fast. And I know your area does have some problems, incredibly. People don't talk about that, but they do. But most areas have problems because the policies of this administration, they don't even have a policy. They're like, they don't have a policy. There's nothing. They don't have anything. They don't know what they're doing. I mean, think of it. They want to go to all electric cars, the whole thing electric. They need $9 trillion, I read the other day, to do a charging station, Max. He owns the gasoline stuff, and to do a charging station. And they built 8 charging stations up in the Midwest someplace. They spent $9 billion. I kid you not. You know what that is? A charging station is like a gas pump. It's the equivalent of a gas pump. They spent $9 billion for 8 charging stations. So if you look at it that way, if you did the whole country, you would have spent $30 trillion, okay? Which is more than the country, which is every country in the world. It's so out of control. It's so horrible. And they don't want to change. The truckers came in to see me. The truckers are great. They have trucks that can go from New York to Los Angeles on a tank of diesel fuel. And they came in almost crying. They said, these people are crazy. They want us to go to electric trucks. And the problem is they don't go far. They'd have to stop 6 times. I mean, you talk about no deliveries. They have to stop 6 times. They're 2.5 times heavier than gasoline or diesel. So the truck would weigh 2.5. I said, well, that could be a problem, right? Yes, you'd have to rebuild every bridge in the United States because they can't hear. What do you think of that, Carlos? So now if you're a child, you'd say, okay, that doesn't work. You know, those 2 things, right? It doesn't go far. And the other thing, third thing, is they'd have to use half of the capacity for the battery because the battery takes up tremendous amounts of room, much more than a load of diesel fuel, which is, you know, something. And by the way, even little things, I'll give you little boring facts. As the truck goes, the fuel gets lighter, the battery stays the same weight. So it's massively heavy, and it takes up about 50% of the area that you're supposed to use to transport it. So it doesn't work. So normally what you do is say, all right, after about, would you say 3 minutes, Carlos? 3 minutes, you'd say, okay, let's get on to the next. That doesn't work. They say, we don't care. We want you to do it. And these truckers are beside themselves. They're going to be forced to do electric trucks. They're not going to work. Maybe someday in the future, I don't know, maybe someday, but it's possible it'll never work because it's so crazy. But think of it, just the weight or the distance, they don't go far. The cost is astronomical. And these guys are going to be all put out of business. You're not going to have any truckers. And they say, we don't care. Build it. That's what we want. We want all electric trucks soon, like you give them such a short period of time. These are big. One gentleman had 29,000 trucks. And he said to me, you know, I've been buying trucks for 50 years, and every damn year they got better and bigger and stronger and more efficient. Every single year. And then we build the cabs. We build apartments on the back of those trucks. And I'll tell you, sir, I know you like luxury. You'd be proud to live in one of those trucks. See, I don't know about that. I might be. Who knows? Who knows? But, and I think he meant it, actually. But he said, you'd be proud, you know, in the cab they build like the place for them to sleep and stay. He said, some of those things are so beautiful. But he said, every year, for 50 years, it got better. And if we had to go to electric, we would go back more than 50. We'd go back to 60 years. It would be worse than the truck from 50 years ago. Doesn't work. So what you say is it doesn't work, but they want to force it down your throat. Look at the case of Los Angeles and California. They have brownouts and blackouts all the time, and they want to go all electric. They don't have enough electric for themselves. They want to go all electric with one of the worst governors. And by the way, she, as the Attorney General, helped destroy the state of California, and she destroyed probably, that's Harris. She destroyed probably the best, maybe the best city in the world. I mean, San Francisco was one of the greatest cities. A friend of mine, Bob Tisch, used to say that it's the best city that he's ever been. He was in many cities, the great Bob Tisch. And he said San Francisco was the best city in the United States. And now it's horrible. You know, I own property there, and it's very costly every time I do this, but I don't care because this is a much higher calling. I hurt the value of my property tremendously when I say this, but it's almost unlivable now with the crime and all of the things that are happening. And the only thing I would disagree with you on is that the economy is very important. I actually think that the biggest thing is the border, because the border is destroying our country. It's really destroying. I think the economy is bad, but I think and it's made really bad by the horrible inflation that was caused. The inflation is really the biggest problem. But I really believe that even the inflation, and that's a country destroyer, it's a country buster, they call it, inflation. But I really think that the biggest problem this country has is what they've allowed to happen to us on the border. Right. They've allowed our country to be destroyed. They're allowing thousands of murderers and drug dealers and terrorists and people from mental institutions. They're emptying out their jails into our country. They're emptying out their jails. And by the way, their crime rates all over the world are going down. They have many people now coming from the Congo in Africa. It's not just... You think about South America, they're emptying out their jails in the Congo, and they're delivering them to the border, and they're saying, congratulations, here's America. And we have 21 million people at least over the last little while. And if they got in, they're going to have open borders 100%, just like they tried to trick everybody. They said they tried to tighten it up a little bit just to because they have an election coming up. It didn't work much. But they forgot to tell you that they continue to fly big, beautiful Boeing jets right over the border with hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants landing in the Midwest and other places. They forgot to stop those planes coming in. They thought they were going to put a little bit of a show on the border and they could show something. They didn't do it. I think it's the single biggest problem because our country is loaded up right now with murderers and with people and seriously ill people from mental institutions, and those mental institutions are empty, and those jails are becoming empty, and countries are down 60, 70, and 80% in crime, and we're going through the roof with crime. When she said, no, the migrants don't commit crime. These migrants are, the criminals that they're allowing in are tougher than any criminal there is. The only good thing about it is they make our criminals look like nice people. These are ruthless, horrible people. I'd like to ask Max to say a few words because he gets it from the standpoint of where he was born. He grew up in a system, and I've seen him speak very beautifully on this subject of what's happening to our country. Max?
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for being here. Last time you asked me to talk, I took everybody else's time and you told me to shut up, so I'm going to make it very brief. Yeah. Okay, I just want to start by saying, drill, baby, drill, because that is your motto. I am extremely confident, without a doubt, that the first day that we elect Mr. Donald J. Trump, our next president, the first day in office, I guarantee you he'll solve half of the problems that we have. The most important. Sure. Most important. On November 5th, the election is not about you and us. It's about freedom and oppression. And this is the only man that I know that can handle that. This is the only man that has survived, for the grace of God, things that we can never imagine. And he gets up and he says, fight, fight, fight. I happen to be honored today.
Thank you, man.
I am honored today by being surrounded by representatives of God on earth, and we have to pray. Yes. And I always would say, pray, 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 but fight, 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 because that's exactly what we need to do. Praying itself is not going to do it. We need to pray and fight. Now, talking about the economy, this is very simple. You made us energy independent in just a flick of a finger.
That's right.
You can do it again. Now here's the problem. We have people running our country who are totally economic illiterate. These people have never had a job. These people have never run a business. These people have never signed the front of a check. Mr. Donald Trump has done all of that, and he runs this country like a business, because after all, it's a business. You cannot keep printing money that you don't have to help people who hate you instead of taking care of your own neighbors here in America. That's why he will make America great again. And when he makes America great again, he will make the whole world great again. Because we need to be strong enough to take care of our problems, and then we can go and help the people who need help. So thank you, Mr. President. Talking about the American dream. A young boy came to this country at age 13, didn't even know the language. And one day, he's sitting in a panel, hugging the best man, the President of the United States of America. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, man.
Mr. President, and it's a misnomer that Latinos want open borders. We want a secure border like all Americans. And we know what it leads to. Eduardo, who is the producer of Sound of Freedom, he has so much firsthand experience. So Eduardo, why don't you tell us about the movie and what we're facing with the immigration that the president's talking about?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, President, for your time. My name is Eduardo Verástegui, and I am very grateful to this nation for opening the door to my dreams. This nation has been such an amazing blessing in my life. God bless America. God bless Mexico, and God bless Hispanic America. And let's make America and Mexico and Hispanic America great again. Together, pro-life again, healthy again, and free again. I met these heroes 10 years ago in Los Angeles, California. Ex-Navy SEALs, ex-CIA agents, and they travel around the world undercover rescuing children. And when they told me in details what they do, in how they rescue these children, my eyes were open. And I said, I'm a filmmaker, I wanna make a movie about this, because the first step to eradicate child trafficking is to raise awareness. Because if you don't know that this problem exists, how you can fix it? So I made a promise to God that I will dedicate my entire life to end child trafficking. To end child trafficking. Because God's children are not for sale. Children are sacred. And I am very grateful with you, Mr. President, dear amigo, dear hermano, because of you hosting a private screening in your house, because of you endorsing Sound of Freedom. After that, Sound of Freedom became the #1 independent film in box office ever in history, produced by a Mexican producer. Thank you for that. Thank you for the incredible hard work you're doing. Thank you for putting the children first. And that's why it's so important, is for all the media, for all Mexican Americans, Hispanic Americans, to vote for President Trump. And I know we will win for the third time. For the third time. Yes. Yes. We will win for the third time. And that's a fact. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. Because it's true. Because it's true. Look what is happening right now. Look what is happening right now with these evil people. Obama, Hillary, Kamala, Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, all this team. There's more than 300,000 children over 300,000 children that they came through the border, they released them, and we don't know where they are. Kamala, where are the children? Kamala, where are the children? You know, these people, Kamala and Biden, they're the biggest human traffickers in the history. And everyone knows that. And that's why I'm here to give my 100% to support my dear friend, President Donald Trump. And again, we will win for the third time. God bless you. God bless you, Mr. President.
Really nice. Thank you.
We need to put you in the White House back again, in the beautiful White House. You're going to be in the beautiful White House again.
You bring up something that people don't talk about, the press doesn't talk about. I think if it were on the other side, it would be one of the great scandals in history. It's actually 325,000 children are missing, sex slaves, slaves, or dead.
Yes.
One of those four things, slaves, sex slaves, missing or dead. And think of what 325,000, you know, we say it, it's a number, blah, blah, blah. I was talking to a reporter before, I said, 325,000. Oh, what else is new? He's going like, let's go to the next question. I'm saying to myself, can you believe it?
Wow.
A bad sort of a reporter, I told him he is. But think of it almost like, you know, like, let's get on with the interview. Think of what 325,000, we have religious leaders up here, think of what 325,000. How many times can you fill a nice big stadium like a Yankee Stadium with that 325,000? They're missing. I think many of them are dead. Most of them possibly are dead. It's so sad. Our country is so sad. And then you wake up to the news that we've given the entire Israeli game plan to the enemy. Who could imagine this? Who could imagine this? I would say Israel's not too happy about that, right? But with all of this together, add it up, and I'm just so glad I bring it up, and it doesn't register. Maybe it registered better the way you said it, because, you know, you're such passion the way you said that. We are missing, during their regime, this stupid person that was the border czar. She was made the border czar. Now she said she wasn't. She was the border czar for 3.5 years, and now she said no. Whether she is or not, she was in charge of the border. That's loud and clear. She never once called the Border Patrol. The Border Patrol, by the way, 5 days ago endorsed me, which is something they're not even really supposed to do. And in endorsing me, they gave it a full-throated endorsement, but in endorsing me, they said how horrible she is. And it's not easy for them to say that. You know, this is the vice president of the country. They work for the country. They said the worst that they've ever seen. And, you know, they're great people. They're people that want to do their job. It's easier not to do the job, probably. Just let the people walk right into our country. They want to do the job. They love the country. They're incredible people. I've gotten to know them very well. And they said not one time, the question was asked by the fake news, how many times did she call? Not one call was ever made to any of them by either Biden or Kamala. Not one call about the border. And I actually think it's the biggest thing. You know, we talk about the economy and we talk about inflation. Let's put them together. But there's something about that border that's just really, really evil. The drugs, the human trafficking, you know, it's not just people pouring through. It's the human trafficking, and they traffic in women mostly. It's mostly women, believe it or not, as much as we talk about the 325,000, but women still have the big edge. They traffic in women and children, and they do it at levels that, by the way, 4 years ago, it's always bad. If you do one person, it's bad. But this is 15 or 16 times the number. Nobody checks. Nobody does anything. You know how you check? You go and open the trunk of a car. That's how they put them mostly in trunks of cars. How would you like to be a woman, a little girl, a little boy, in the trunk of a car? That's how they find them. A lot of times they're dead because of the heat. They drive through. By the time they get to the destination, they open the trunk and they're dead. And this horrible, incompetent person has allowed this to happen and never one time called anybody from the Border Patrol. They work for her and they work for him, and then they complain about a bill. It's a phony deal. It's a scam. There's no bill. I never had a bill. All you have to do as president, wake him up and say, Joe, we need you to say close the border. That's what I did.
That's right.
I just said we're closing the border. He keeps talking about, they keep bringing up a phony bill. The bill was horrible. 2 million people are allowed in. It was a horrible bill, stupid bill, but has nothing to do. As president, you have tremendous, it's called extreme power. You have extreme power. You can, just by the fact you say, close the border, and the border's closed. That's it. Very, very simple. You don't need all of this nonsense that they talk about. But the truth is, for some reason, and I can't figure it out, for some reason they want open borders. Nobody's been able to tell me why. I don't think they can tell you why. They just want open borders. So we have to win the election. I'm so glad you brought up, you said 300, but the number's actually 325. I'll give you a number that's really bad too. So the Border Patrol, because they've had it, they've never done this before, they released a list of criminals in our country. And they really are tremendously good if you let them do the job like I let them do the job. We have 13,099, exactly, 13,000 during their term. They tried to say, oh, this is over 40 years. No, this is during their 3.5 year that they've been there. 13,099 murderers. These are murderers. These are people that were in prison and they're murderers. Some are up for the death penalty, but some killed far more than one person. 13,099, it's the exact number. Every one of them has been released into the United States of America. Then you have the drug lords and the drug dealers. There are thousands of them. Then you have the traffickers, the human traffickers. These are people that largely were in jail, caught. Then you have the gang members. These are people that weren't in jail, but they ruled the cities. They ruled the cities, the gangs, they ruled them. You don't have them, Christian Durrell, for the most part. If you did, you'd do something about it very quickly. We're lucky. But these are gang members that are so violent. And you see it's happening in Aurora, in Colorado, where you have a governor who's a radical left governor who's petrified of the whole situation. And they have military-style weapons. They have weapons that are of military quality. Somebody said it might be a step up. It's called a Supreme, a military Supreme. They have weapons and they're taking over apartment complexes and everything. These gangs come from Venezuela largely. What's happening to our country is it's so crazy. Nobody would think it. I mean, you sit here and you're just amazed. As you speak, you get angrier and angrier because it's so simple and it's so obvious and everyone knows it's true and nobody does anything about it. All they think about is transgender operations. All they think about is we want men to play in women's sports. You know, I've never met a person, because I'm a sports guy, I've never met a person that came up to me and they say, we want men to play in women's sports. Somehow they're pushing it. Has anyone here ever met? I've been doing this a long time, and I've been talking about this for a while, because I'm ending it on day one. I'm ending it on day one. And we, despite a whole web of things, we wouldn't accept it, but we're going to just end it. But has anyone ever had anyone, I mean, you have all these great politicians up here. Carlos, has anyone come up to you and say, we insist on having men play in women's sports? I saw a volleyball match this weekend where a man who transitioned, this is the way, I'm very politically correct now because, you know, you lose in politics if you say slightly off. A man who transitioned into, congratulations, a woman, hit a ball. He was like 4 feet up in the air. He smashed a ball so hard that these young ladies that were all top players, they said, we've never seen anything. They hit her in the head. And, you know, people have been very badly hurt in that sport and in other sports. Swimming, the records, it's ridiculous. The records are being broken by numbers that nobody's even thought possible. The greatest is weightlifting. You see weightlifting records. Take a look at some of these records where a record that stood for 18 years and they'd put 1/8 of an ounce and 1/8 of an ounce and and you know, these guys are walking in and breaking it. It's so sick that you actually say they hate our country. But think, has anybody has anybody approached you and said, we want to really fight hard so that men can play in women's sports? I don't think so. So there's a sickness going on in our country. We have to end the sickness. And we have to start, because she's a radical left. You know, she was one of the leaders, the one I'm running against. You're all running against somebody, but the one I'm running against, she was in favor of defund the police. She was one of the starters of defund. Now, once you have that ideology, even for a week or a day, you shouldn't be president. Because if you want defund the police, even for a day, you shouldn't be president. And she was one of the leaders. So,
Mr. President?
so I just want to leave it at that. Would anybody else like to say anything? Bob, would you like to say something?
Sure, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Give a Latino a microphone.
That's all right, in your case.
Mr. President, I can't believe your courage, your fight, and I know why you're doing this. You're not doing it for anything but because you love this country, you love us, and we love you. And there's a big day coming up, November 5th. It's existential for this country.
Yeah.
And there's a day about 30 days later, 20 some days later, which is Thanksgiving. And I'm looking for the day where we can sit around the table and thank God that President Trump is the 47th President of the United States. He's going to bring this country back. I was, there's a famous Cuban poet, Jose Marti, and he said, there are those who are born to love and build and others to hate and destroy. You're a builder, you're a uniter, you're courageous, you love, and you create. Years ago, Elian Gonzalez, his mother, Elizabeth, brought him to these shores at 6 years old. And, you know, for opportunity, for the land of opportunity, we've become the land of exploitation. They took him out. The family had fought to keep him in this country under pressure from Castro. They took him out. Our DOJ took him out, Janet Reno. You know, Mr. President, DOJ has not gotten much better since then, even under some Republican presidents. But, you know, to me, the three-letter agencies is the fourth branch of government. This warfare that's gone against you, and that's one of the ones that are taking this country away. But we had a day of protest. I was here, I was living in Florida at that time when Elian was taken, and they expected that Miami would burn, like other protests around the country by other groups. But nothing happened, and why is that? Because the Cuban community, the Colombian community, the Venezuelan community have built Miami, and they built this country where the working class. And when you build, you don't destroy. That's right. The other side of, you know, loving and building and creating is hating and destroying and dividing. And that's what's happened. We have become from the land of opportunity to the land of exploitation. And the exploiter in chief is Kamala Harris and this administration. Yeah. Right. And I don't say that I say that as a Latino who's fed up. Basta ya con el abuso. Where enough abuse and enough exploitation. To talk about, because I was involved with it